How are we doing? We doing good? Good, awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I was here last year, maybe a little bit over a year ago. And I just want to thank you for having me back. Those that remember me, sorry, you're probably going to have to hear a little bit of what you heard last time. But my name's Efrain Rodriguez. I'm with the FBI. I've been with the FBI for 14 years now. And throughout the 14 years I worked counterterrorism. I actually joined the FBI because of 9/11. So after 9/11, September 11 happened, and I was a civil engineer. And I just started questioning, right? What if, I'm just building buildings and doing construction, and what if I keep on doing this for the next 10 years? Is that gonna make a difference? And at that point, I didn't think it was gonna make a difference to make another building. So 9/11 happened. I wanted to change my path to make a difference in this world. So I joined the FBI in November of 2001. And by May of the 2001, in 2003, because it's a long process, it takes about 2 years to join the FBI just because of the background and everything else that they do. But it took me about 18 months, right? So in May of 2003, I joined the FBI, and I've been there since. Since then, like I mentioned, counterterrorism. After that, I did polygraph, so I'm an expert lie detector. After that, I worked cyber for about 2 years. And then after that, I worked terrorist use of the internet, basically focusing on social media. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that too. And then after that, now I'm actually working counterintelligence. So I guess I'm smart enough now. I guess I gained some intelligence, but I'll be working that. So my story starts in Mexico. Okay, I was born in Mexico. I'm the oldest of three. My younger brother was born in Los Angeles, and he's actually also an FBI agent. But my story starts in Mexico. My parents immigrated in probably mid 70s, okay, and they did it illegally. Okay, so for many years we were in this country illegally, and it wasn't until 1987 when they passed an amnesty law, right? But from the time that I became aware, the late 70s and the early 80s, I knew I was here legally, right? So it's a different lifestyle, right? Of course, we were immigrants. We didn't have any money. Both of my parents had to work 2 jobs. So there were things that we did not get or we did not have. We couldn't get McDonald's because we didn't have the money, right? And if we did, it was to my younger brother just because, he was the baby. So there were things that I grew up hoping to have that I did not have. And maybe that changed me for the better. But it wasn't until 1987 with the passing of the amnesty that we became legal. And a few years after that, I became a citizen of the United States, which is what you need to become an FBI agent. Okay. We grew up in East Los Angeles. First, I grew up in downtown Los Angeles. I was supposed to go to Belmont High. I was literally a stone throw away from downtown LA, from the Bonaventure. That has changed a lot in these years. So the apartment complex that me and my family lived there for 12 years is no longer there. Okay, but 12 years in an apartment. After that, once so because of that, you don't want to own any property and things like that. And after we became legal and living in an apartment, making ends meet, my parents were able to save, right? Save. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit to save. They were able to save, and in the early 90s, they were able to actually purchase some things, right? So they purchased something. So my beginnings took me from downtown LA and then over to East Los Angeles, where I attended Garfield High School, and one of my professors was Jaime Escalante, right? So I had him for a couple of years. I liked math. I like to, use my brain a little bit. Since a very early age, I was very interested in infinity, right? And there's a reason that I want to share that with you. It might seem kind of odd, but I was about 6 years old, and we went to a garage sale, and there was a book about infinity, and that really boggled my mind at like 6 years old, right? I kept talking to my parents. I'm like, "What's infinity?" And they're like, "Well, nothing." Okay, well, what do you mean nothing, right? They're like, okay. I was like, okay, but did it like never ends? He's like, no, it never ends. I'm like, okay, well, what was there before infinity? They're like, well, nothing. I'm like, was nothing solid? Or was nothing empty? Or what color is nothing? So, the reason I dropped that is because I think even as an early age, I was interested in the beyond. I was interested in something bigger than us, right? And I actually came to find Jesus later in life. But throughout my life, I always had that emptiness, right? That emptiness of there is something more there. And I think that throughout life, we all go, right, trying to fill that void that we have. Each one of us has a different void. But that's my story, right? Of a very early age, having this emptiness that I wanted to fill, right? But you have to be careful, right? Because there's a lot of things in this world that you think might fill that void, right? And it's only temporary, right? It's not going to fill that void permanently, and sometimes it's not the right thing to fill that void, right? You could fill that void with a good thing, or you could fill that void with a bad thing, and that comes down to decision, right? At a very early age, so I knew what was right from wrong, and I think that's inherent in all of us. We all know what right from wrong is. It's up to us to make that decision, right? To do that. So throughout my upbringing in downtown Los Angeles and in East Los Angeles, I was faced with gangs, right? There were some friends that were gang members. My best friend from elementary, he's dead. He got shot, and his brother is in prison for life because he wanted to take revenge for his brother's death. And several other friends, they have several children by different women, and they were into drugs at the time. So it's not a very good picture to paint, but I'm just telling you what I went through. Okay. In Garfield, it didn't get any better, right? You still had the gangs, and you had more drugs. I played football, I played baseball, and you want to be the best, right? You want to be the best at everything that you do. And a couple of friends, they messed around with cocaine, right? It was in the bathrooms, and the way that I got out of it was like, hey, you want some? I'm like, no, I already had some, right? So, but you come up with different things to try and make the right decision, right? There were many times that I took the long way home because I wanted to avoid, right, the group of people that were not a good decision in my life. In high school, and there's actually one more thing that I haven't even mentioned. Growing up, I had a stutter. Okay, a really bad stutter, where I couldn't even put two words together. Okay, so on top of taking the long way home, on top of trying to make the right decision, on top of not having what you want, people laughed at me, right? And the reason that I say that is, hopefully not, none of you have a stutter because I've had it, and I don't wish that upon anybody. But everybody, we all have our own maybe disability, right? It might not be disability only to us, right? We might not like our nose or our hair or our ears or whatever it might be. And I know that in your age right now, that is very important, right? It's important to be accepted. It's important to be liked. So let me tell you from a guy that grew up with a stutter, okay? stutterer with no money and was here illegally. It was not a fun time. Okay. So what does that, make me do? I mean, that made me, just, focus again, like I said, and doing the right thing. You don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know what's going to happen, in 5 or 10 years from now. And I think that's probably, where some of us are at right now. And I'm including myself in you, with you in that, because, these times, I am 45 years old and I haven't seen times like this. It's kind of weird, right? Reading the news and hearing what you're going to say, what they're going to say and what's happening. So, but at the end of the day, right, all you have is the combination and the sum of all those good decisions, right? If when I was 5 years old or 10 or 15 years old, I followed in the same path to feel that void at that certain time, right, I would have gone to drugs. Why? Because that was there to fill that void. I would have gone to my, to my friends, to my, gang member friends to fill that void because my parents were working 2 jobs and they weren't there for me. So maybe I needed somebody to be there for me. So I could have done that, but I didn't. And I'm sorry if it sounds more like a parent talking. That's not the way that I'm trying to portray it. I'm trying to portray it from a person who lived it and a person that knows what it's like, okay? And through Melody, anybody has access to me. If you guys have questions afterwards or tomorrow or next week, I'll be happy to answer those questions and to be there, hopefully, as a mentor, and as a guide in any decisions that you might have to make. But that's all we have, right? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and we are a summation of our decisions, right? We could always change our life around, right? Nobody's perfect. Right, there have been some bad decisions in my life. Hopefully, thank God that those decisions weren't some major ones, and I was able to, come back to the right path. Okay, so we might not know. So the takeaway is that we might not know what comes tomorrow, or 10 years, or 5 years, or next year. But if we make the right decisions, we know that we're going to place ourselves in the perfect path to benefit and from whatever is at that time for us. After Garfield High School, I like math. I was interested in mathematics and into space. My dream was to be an astronaut, right? I wanted to go into space. And again, right, this just follows all the path about infinity and space, and I just wanted to see what was up in the heavens, what makes us, why are we here, and I think that's the biggest question, why are we here? So I wanted to be an astronaut, and unfortunately, so I did the research, and most astronauts, they were from the Air Force. So I was like, okay, well then I want to join the Air Force. I want to be a pilot. And so then I found out that I couldn't join the Air Force because my sight was in 2020. So that was a bummer, right? But then I'm like, well, I'm not gonna get deterred. Let's see how else can I become a pilot. And then I found out that you could be a commercial pilot and potentially be an astronaut. So I'm like, okay, great, right? I don't have the money right now to pay for to learn how to fly a plane, but maybe I could start by learning how to build them. So I actually went to USC, went to college for aerospace engineering. Right, I'm thinking, hopefully one day I'll be able to have the money to pay for my own classes. But in the meantime, I want to know how they work, how they fly. So after filling out 15 applications, right, because that's what we do, right, and get as many waivers as I could. I applied to many different schools. I was accepted by USC. I was there 4.5 years. I started off as an aerospace engineering major, and then I ended up graduating with a civil engineering major. The change for that was in the 1990s, the aerospace industry was leaving California, and at that time, the only jobs were from Airbus in France. This Mexican doesn't speak French, So I decided to stay here in Los Angeles. Uh, so then I made the change, right? I made the change to civil engineering. Civil engineering again, and the reason I'm telling you this is because everything's a decision, right? I really wanted to be a pilot. Things change, right? I wanted to join, wanted to build planes, and ended up being a civil engineer. Things change, but you have to make the best decision at the time. Why civil engineering? Well, I started thinking, well, civil engineering is a very general field. I could go into building planes if I could, building buildings, building roads, building spoons if I had to, whatever it was, right? It was a decision to try and make the best decision at the time. After that, I went to go work for Metropolitan Water District in water filtration, and at the same time, I went for my master's degree in civil engineering in construction management. Right, long way from being an astronaut. Now I'm a construction manager. So then, and I went to Metropolitan Water District. That's a federal agency. It's kind of funny that I used to work for a federal agency. Maybe I should have stayed right now, because now I work for a federal agency. But I wanted to see what I was made out of, right? So I went from I'm tired of working for a federal agency. I want to go out into private industry. So that's what happened in 1998. I left the federal agency to work for a private construction company, because I thought it was all that and much, right? As a civil engineer. So I did that for a few years until 2001, and that brings us back to why I joined the FBI. Okay. Any questions until now? Yes.
Efrain Rodriguez, now that we got your history up to the FBI, what's the most rewarding part of your job for you?
The most rewarding part of my job, I found that that actually helping people, okay, serving others, that's fulfilling, okay. I don't, so I could be in front of a desk, writing reports, and even though those reports will go ultimately to helping the investigation, it's everything we do is about people, okay. You guys here, right? Up at the counter, just interaction, even going on Facebook. Why you go on Facebook? Because you like to see what people are doing, right? Unfortunately, that could be somewhat of an illusion, right? Because that's a virtual world. But the most enjoyable part of my job is actually interaction with people, right? This is an honor for me to be here with you guys. I mean, it's this actually changes it up for me a little bit, and I'm a little bit frustrated in the sense that this is what we need to do, right? But I know for a fact, because I have been part of it, where we throw resources upon resources and field and coordination and manhunts across the world with agencies, and you throw everything that we got at one person. Right? One person that, yeah, he's a bad person, but what if we could do something a little bit more efficient? Right? Where we could put the resources and all into educating, right? Into talking to people like you, right? To try and if we could go back to the background of that one criminal that we spent all the millions on, and hundreds, if not thousands of people, we could go back to that point where that person made the bad decision, right? So I'm coming back to the decision, right? But that person made that bad decision, or that series of bad decisions actually got him to us wasting all that time and effort into one person. What if we could go back and actually get him and his friends, right? And we actually tell them some truth, right? Tell them some truth of what is out there, of how they can make the right decision, and hopefully then those millions of dollars, right? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's a cup of coffee talking to the guy. So that's my thought now. But that's the most enjoyable, fulfilling part, is talking to students like you. But I get fulfillment out of serving others, especially the youth. Any other questions? Nothing's out limit. Go ahead.
Like, what do you think about the current sitting president? That he was having issues with the FBI, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I'm not working that special investigation, right? But yes, just like we all know, there is an investigation, right? And the investigation is into how far basically Russia meddled, if they did meddle, into that campaign. And of course, an investigation leads into other investigations. So at this point, I don't know how involved or how focused that investigation is on him personally, but it definitely is focused on the Russian government and their meddling into the campaign. And of course, if you guys have been watching the news, right, you always hear, of other parallels. Paul Manafort, supposedly, he was a campaign manager. He's gonna, he's more than likely gonna get arrested or indicted. So you never know what's gonna happen, right? But what I do know about the FBI, because I'm part of them, is that we do everything to the fullest, right? We do everything just. Okay, and there's gonna be no stone unturned until we find out the truth, right? Because that's what it's all about, right? Either you're in the FBI or in life, you have to know about the truth. You have to seek the truth. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Clear. What are the requirements for one to join the FBI?
Great. So the requirements to join the FBI is you have to be a U.S. citizen, you have to have at least a 4-year degree, and you have to have 3 years experience. Now this is to be an FBI agent. The FBI has other opportunities, what we call professional support, professional staff. You could join the mail room. You could be an assistant. You could be a secretary. You could be an analyst. You could be a scientist. There's plenty of jobs, and the only general requirement is for the FBI is to be a U.S. citizen, okay, and a high school degree. That is the lowest requirement. Okay, there is a process. Again, it took me 18 months, but it probably take people on average 2 years. And what they do is they do a full background check, right, on you. It's on you. Okay, it is going to touch into your family, into your decisions. Okay, but again, it's on you. Why do I say that? Is because that's what I was afraid of when I was going through, right? Because I have friends, like I said, friends that are in jail, friends that drugs, even family members, right, that made the wrong decisions, and I was like, right, I hope they don't find out about Paco, right, or else I'm done. But the good thing about that is that the FBI looks at you. Okay, only you. Okay, even if your brother is a terrorist, that's your brother, right? You can't control your brother. It's about you. It's not about your parents. My parents were, came here illegally, right? I was just forthcoming, right, when I was interviewed, because they do an interview and they do a polygraph. But as long as you tell the truth, right? Questions?
I know in the past, maybe not now, but in the past, there was a drug. There are drug organizations.
Oh, yes. Thank you for bringing that. Yes.
A lot of youth,
Yes. Yes. Thank you for bringing that. Yes. I forgot about that. Yes. There is, when I came in there, you cannot have used any hard drugs, when I say cocaine, within the last 10 years, and marijuana within the last 3 years. Okay, under federal law, it's still against the law, right? Marijuana, right? Federal, but it's state and local, as we see. That's being approved and okayed more and more. So I heard a rumor. Okay, right now it's still 3 years, but I heard a rumor that there's consideration to be more flexible on the marijuana, okay, just because it is seen locally and at a state level. So to get the right candidates, right, what you're seeing is that the youth has has experienced, right, more than when I was growing up, right? So, but it's still 3 years for marijuana. So if you guys want to join the FBI, nobody's perfect. I have been a polygraph examiner for some applicants, right, that have been there, and again, it's all about telling the truth, right? It doesn't matter. I don't care that you did marijuana, right? Let's just go under the requirements, right? So when I was doing the polygraph test, there's kids out of college. I'm sorry if I say kids, I'm 45 years old, so it's not a disrespect. They're there and they want to join the FBI. They're great candidates, great people. For the majority, they make great decisions, but they wanted to be cool with their friends and they smoked marijuana during their graduation, right? Which was 2 and some years ago. I said, look, it's 3 years, and if you could straight face tell me and go under polygraph and tell me that it was 3 years and 1 day that you did polygraph, then you're not gonna have a problem, right? Because you know that it's 3 years. But if it was 2 years and 360 days, right, you're not gonna pass. Right, so he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm really not sure. I said, okay. I said, well, this is what you're gonna have to do. I said, you're gonna have to withdraw your application, okay? So it doesn't count against you. Wait whatever time you think that you need, and then come back and apply again, right? We're not there to hurt or put a mark on anybody. That's just the way it is, right? We just, want to help. As many people, good people, come and join us at the FBI. Any questions in the back? Yeah, sure, go ahead.
You said you're a master lie detector, like you with the machine, or like you just know when someone's lying?
Okay, the question is, am I a master lie detector with a machine or the person? Both, right, both. Because there's a technique, right? There's a technique that we use, right? I could talk to you, and based on your words, right? Based on your words, I could tell you exactly what's going on. There's a funny story, but also with the machine. But the story goes like this, and it's a true story. There was a lady in the East Coast, I think it was North Carolina. She was interviewed, right? She was claiming that her kids were kidnapped. Right, they were kidnapped, and so they interviewed her, and this is what she said, and then a polygraph examiner heard her and basically contacted the police department and says, no, she knows. She says, okay, she claimed that those kids were kidnapped. Okay, she says, I loved those kids. I loved those kids. Right, somebody that when their kids go missing, they say, I love those kids. I still love those kids. I want them back, right? But the mother says, I loved those kids. So the polygraph examiner says, nope. Go talk to her, right? Interview her, polygraph her. She knows. She knows that they're dead, right? Because she's like speaking in past tense. So it could be as simple as that, right? But it becomes more, more involved. There's a lot more words, right? Question in the back?
Did your high school teacher, Mr. Escalante, really act like everything's almost portrayed him to be in a movie?
The question was if my teacher, Jaime Escalante, acted exactly like the movie, and the answer is yes, right? Of course. The movie is 2 hours, so they wanna, so you get a concentrated version of it. But yes, he acted just like that, all right? And there was a point where I didn't think he liked me, all right? No, really. So I came late to his program. I wasn't one of his chosen ones, but I came late. But again, based on the right decisions, right? I didn't need Jaime Escalante to tell me that I needed to be cautious, because they didn't know Jaime Escalante. But I just knew that following the sounding board of my teachers of good role models, right, was to go on to, once I did algebra, go, geometry, trigonometry, algebra 2, and so on. So anyway, so I ended up being in his class, right, and I wasn't one of the chosen ones. And so it was this, class with, close to, 70 students. and he would go every morning to take roll, right? And he would ask for your homework. So he asked me, he says, "Where's your homework?" I said, "I got it right here." I said, "Okay." So then I would take it down there, right? So then the next day he would say like, "Where's your homework?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I turned it in." He's like, "I don't have it." I'm like, "Oh man," I'm like, I don't think he likes me very much, right? But so after that I got smarter too, right? I started making copies of it. Right, because I didn't know when he was going to tell me that I didn't turn in my homework. So the next few times, right, he's like, "Where's your homework?" I'm like, "I turned it in." He's like, "I don't have it." I'm like, "It's okay, I made a copy." Right, so I walk down and take it to him. And of course he would speak under his breath, just like in the movie and things like that. But the whole point was that he actually wanted me, maybe did it wrong the first time or something, right? But he saw that that I was going to outsmart whatever it was. It's like whatever his comment was. But his whole point was to he wasn't being mean. He just saw the benefit in doing homework multiple times, right? So that was one of his tricks. Question? Okay. Good.
You guys say you guys did a background check, let's say, for instance, I had felony that I got sponged. Would that, like, have any harm?
A felony that gets sponged?
Yeah, I had a felony that was sponged.
Okay, if it's sponged, then it's sponged, right? Yeah.
So the question is, if there's a record in your background, in your history that got sponged, right? If it was sponged, it was sponged. But just be sure to tell that, because it's not gonna, it weighs more on you, right, than on us, because we don't know, right? We're not gonna find anything out because it's been sponged, which is fine, right? But if you're worried about it and you don't come clean with it, if you're worried, then we're like, what are you worried about? What are you worried about? Did they kill somebody? No, I crossed the red light when I was 5 or whatever it was, right? So you can't keep that in your mind. This is why coming clean and telling everything up front, that's the way to go in anything in life, not just the FBI. The question?
What about when you're in the military? Could you go right into the FBI or what?
So there are special programs. If you're in the military, then of course that gives you the 3-year experience, right? And then, but you still need, if you want to be an FBI agent, then you still need the 4-year degree, right? But if there's other things that you want to do in the FBI, then just like I mentioned before, there's a lot of things that you could do in the FBI.
All right.
Okay. Any questions?
We're going. Thank you so much. Agent Rodriguez has agreed to be in Larry's class, so Larry's class is going to have a chance to have more questions answered, and like if you have a special interest in this, you might be able to ask your teacher if you can come join that class. But thank you very much. It's an honor to have you with us. We really appreciate it. So have a great day. It's 3, 4, 5.